at the Charcuterie Wine Bar and Bistro in Stroudsburg, every day is a celebration of friends, food, and wine.
The biggest thing is how you pronounce charcuterie. It is not charcuterie, it's not charcuterie or anything like that. It actually means deli in French, so that's kind of where you end up with the meats and the cheeses and things like that. First, you want to start with your cheeses because they're the best. If they're a little bit closer to room temperature, it brings the fat content a little bit warmer, lets it kind of absorb into your mouth. So today we have our fromage d'Affinois. This is a triple cream brie from the Rhône-Alpes region in France. The fromage d'Affinois is sweet, it's a little bit mellow, and as the triple cream, it's much more like runny and it goes with everything.
Nice.
The regular bries are aged a little farther. The fromage, being a triple cream, is actually unfiltered and then aged. So it's about 12 weeks old.
Oh, nice. Interesting.
Our second one is the Blue Stilton. It's from Tuxford and Tebbit. The Blue Stilton is about 2 months aged. It's a little sweet, a little nutty, but the aging really makes those blue veins kind of pop out.
Beautiful, isn't
like
it?
that. Yes.
Yes.
So our next one is the halloumi. This is actually a grilled cheese. It's from Cyprus. It's kind of a cross between a feta and a fresh mozzarella. So it's a little bit salty. It's so great. And because it's grilled, it's served warm, it really like wows the crowd. A lot of people haven't seen it before.
Yeah, super.
Our next one is the Beamster Exo Gouda. This is actually aged for 26 months. You'll see it, these are called calcium lactate crystals. They look like tiny little crunchy bits that are in very aged cheeses.
Yes.
So you want that if you have a hard cheese. And our first meat is going to be an Iberico chorizo. This is from Spain, from Iberico pigs. They're happy pigs. They're right by the ocean, so you get that salty flavor in it. And it's a nice, like, smoky flavor. It's not spicy. Our prosciutto di Parma is an Italian meat. This is aged for 24 months. So it's definitely a mellow, sweet, smoky, salty, and things like that. That really goes great with our Beamster Gouda because the sweetness kind of cuts through that. And then our last meat here, we have a salmon pate. It's a smoked salmon mousse. That's also from France. It goes really great, specifically here. I always put cucumbers with the salmon because you really love to have not only the green next to it, but it really cuts through that. It makes it kind of like a palate cleanser when you have the cucumbers, and it's really nice.
And refreshing almost,
It's so
isn't it?
perfect. Okay, so once you have your meats and cheeses on here, the bread is probably the second most important thing on the board. So fresh, crispy baguette bread. We have a little variety of crackers, which I always love having a variety on the board in general.
Yeah.
Because that way you can mix and match. Everybody gets exactly what they want. And then after the bread and crackers, fruit. Grapes are always a classic. Although you don't really want to eat grapes with the wine.
Right.
Because especially if the wines, you want it to be a little bit sweeter, you're going to taste nothing going back and forth from the grapes. The strawberries I love to have with the more pungent cheeses. So we love it with the Stilton here. Nice and sweet right next to it. The brie obviously is great with strawberries. So part of the building of the charcuterie board is you have your accoutrement. So the accoutrement is really the jams and the peppers, the olives, like really anything you want to have on here that's going to complement the board.
All right.
So I start with sweet. Here today we have a wine jelly that's made with the Renegade Guilty wine. That's great, again, with the Stilton, but I really love to have it with our halloumi here. When I'm building the board, I try to put the matching accoutrement near those cheeses. It's kind of nice because if you have a few that go with it, you can build it around. Everybody kind of knows what should go with what.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, obviously with any kind of brie, you're gonna want honey. This is a sunflower honey from Italy. It has such a nice, like nutty, buttery flavor, so it really cuts through some of the flavors you might want to cut through after those cheeses.
Okay.
These are peppadew peppers. They are from South Africa. They're sweet and just a little bit spicy at the end, but it's really just a nice pepper flavor that goes with everything. I love to have them with the prosciutto, or if you were gonna have an Asiago. Olives, obviously, are going to go right near any of the meats specifically. People love the mustards with their meats. This is an Edmond Fallet Dijon mustard. And then a fig jam. The fig jam is definitely a staple in any of the charcuterie boards. It goes with every single cheese you can think of.
Nice.
And then when you get to at the end where you have everything on there, it's kind of nice to fill in some empty spaces with the nuts, trail mix, or whatever other loose berries you might have.
Now, Liz, I have a question for you. how are we supposed to approach this? Like if you're a guest, like, you know, sometimes you're not quite sure, should you pick, should you put it on a plate, or what do you do with the jellies?
Right, right. So we definitely make sure that you have the different utensils on here so everyone can serve themselves, but you know, everybody feels like they still have their own plates and it's separate. You could share right off the board if it's a more intimate setting, but for the buffets and events and bigger parties, you definitely want to make sure that people can take their own. So for the meats, you actually have this little prong utensil, which is great because you can stick it right in, it lifts it off, and then you don't really have to disturb the rest of the board. For the brie, we have this thick one, which is great because that has a little edge on the end, and you can just cut right through like that. And then serve yourself, you put it on your plate, you would have a little spoon and the jellies and jam so that you can put some of that on as well.
All right.
Yep. And then the harder cheeses, this also has a little end right here that can just slice right off the edge. So again, you have a small piece, you can kind of take as much as you want or as little as you want.
Right.
And that leaves it so just like any other buffet setting, you can come back. And then for the harder cheeses as well like that, take that thinner utensil and it shaves it off right at the end.
You know, you don't want folks to be intimidated, but sometimes you're not quite sure. So, and you do, you know, want to taste everything.
Right,
really,
you do, and that's why we put it out. We try to really have a nice variety of things on there that are going to complement each other. So I want everyone to taste everything.
When we come back, Liz pours us some local wines that complement our charcuterie board.